Let's be real. Relationships, attraction, and power dynamics have always been wrapped in a cloud of mystery. But here's the kicker. Once men actually understand what's happening behind the curtain, everything changes. And for women who've been relying on confusion, mixed signals, or emotional games, yeah, the show is over. Here's the truth. Women are not as complicated as they appear. What looks like mystery is often just psychology, patterns, and instincts playing out. Once men learn to see these patterns clearly, the illusions break. Suddenly, every manipulative trick, every hot and cold game, every test, every emotional push and pull loses its power. When men realize that attraction is built on confidence, boundaries, and presence, they stop chasing endlessly. They stop tolerating disrespect. They stop being confused by silence or overthinking every little text. And in that moment, the control shifts. Because here's what many women don't expect. Once men understand their worth, they don't play the same games anymore. They don't beg for attention. They don't crumble under rejection. And they don't compete for scraps of affection. They choose. They lead. They create a standard so high that only women who bring genuine love, respect, and consistency can meet it. And you know what happens then? The manipulative strategies fall flat, the drama evaporates, the false sense of power disappears because you can't control someone who sees the entire map. So the secret isn't about hating women or flipping the script with revenge. It's about knowledge, awareness, understanding human behavior so deeply that you no longer get tricked by surface level games. Once men know this, the dating battlefield changes forever. The fog lifts, and the women who relied on confusion instead of connection, they're finished. Knowledge is power, and once you have it, you can't be played ever again. Let's talk about something that most people don't want to admit out loud. Manipulation in relationships is real. It happens in dating, it happens in long-term partnerships, and it happens when one person knows the other is too blind, too insecure, or too emotionally wrapped up to notice what's really going on. The thing is, manipulation only works when you don't see it. It's like a magic trick. Once you figure out the sleight of hand, the illusion collapses. And that's exactly why awareness is so powerful. Once men really understand the patterns, the psychology, and the games being played, suddenly they're immune. Think about the classic push and pull tactic. One day she's all over you, sweet, affectionate, making you feel like the most important guy in the world. The next day she's distant, cold, or gives you the silent treatment. What happens? You chase, you crave that sweet version again. You start wondering, what did I do wrong? That confusion is the hook. It keeps you spinning your wheels, trying harder and harder to win her back to that initial high. But here's the truth. That high wasn't an accident. It was bait. Now imagine you actually know the playbook. You know that this isn't about you being unworthy or messing up. It's a control strategy. It's a way to test your insecurity, to see if you'll bend over backwards. And once you see that, the power dissolves. Instead of chasing, you take a step back. Instead of begging, you calmly set your boundary. You stop reacting the way the manipulator wants, and boom, the entire dynamic changes. Halfway, awareness is like flipping on a light in a dark room. At first, everything was shadowy, scary, confusing. You tripped over furniture you couldn't see. You second-guessed every step, but once the light comes on, you see exactly where everything is. You navigate with ease. The room didn't change. You just became aware. And that's how it works in relationships too. The games don't change, but your ability to spot them makes you untouchable. Here's the part that really flips the script. Most manipulation relies on secrecy. It depends on you not knowing what's happening. When someone ghosts you for 3 days, the goal is to make you anxious and desperate for attention. When someone drops a backhanded comment about your looks, the goal is to weaken your confidence just enough so you're easier to control. When someone withholds affection until you prove yourself, the goal is to train you like a dog chasing treats. None of this works if you recognize it in real time. The second you go, oh, I see what's happening here, the trick loses its effect. And let's be clear, this isn't just about women manipulating men or men manipulating women. Human beings manipulate when they feel insecure, when they want control, when they're afraid of being vulnerable. But here's the key difference. Men often grow up blind to emotional games. They're told to be strong, logical, and to just deal with it, so they don't spend much time analyzing these subtle tactics. That makes them more susceptible. Once they start learning the psychology, though, they get wise really fast. The irony is that the manipulators often doesn't expect this. They're used to people reacting the same way every time, chasing, apologizing, crumbling. So when a man suddenly doesn't play along, it throws the whole game off. He sees the silent treatment, and instead of panicking, he calmly goes on with his life. He hears the backhanded comment, and instead of absorbing it, he calls it out or shrugs it off. He notices the push-pull and refuses to jump. That's when the manipulative power structure collapses. Here's another layer. Awareness doesn't just protect you, it actually changes who you attract. When you're sharp enough to see through manipulation, you naturally stop giving your time and energy to people who thrive on it. You become more drawn to people who are genuine, respectful, and consistent, and that, in turn, creates healthier, stronger connections. It's like building an immune system. Once you've been exposed to the games, you recognize them instantly, and you don't get sick from them anymore. A lot of people underestimate just how powerful this is. They think awareness is passive, like just knowing something doesn't change much. But in reality, it changes everything. Knowledge isn't just power, it's freedom. It's the ability to walk away from toxicity without guilt. It's the ability to stay calm when someone is trying to trigger you. It's the ability to see past the words and into the intentions. That freedom means you're no longer controlled by confusion, and that is the ultimate game changer. And here's the best part. Once you see manipulation clearly, you can't unsee it. The same way you can't unsee the wires in a magic show once you know they're there. Every tactic becomes obvious. Every emotional trick stands out. It doesn't mean you'll never feel hurt or frustrated again, but it does mean you'll never be stuck in the same fog of confusion that kept you powerless before. You'll navigate relationships with clarity, confidence, and calm. So yes, awareness removes the manipulation. Once men know the signs, once they understand the psychology, once they shine that light in the dark, the old games don't work anymore. The confusion disappears, the fear dissolves, and the people who depended on manipulation to hold power, they're finished, because you can't control someone who sees the truth. And once you know it, you're never the same again. Confidence is one of those things that people love to talk about, but rarely understand. We hear it all the time. Just be confident. Women love confidence, but what does that actually mean? Because it's not about puffing out your chest, bragging about your accomplishments, or pretending to be someone you're not. Real confidence runs deeper. It's about knowing your worth, setting your standards, and refusing to compromise your value just to keep someone else around. And here's the secret. When men embrace that kind of confidence, everything changes. The entire power dynamic flips. Think about how most relationships play out when a man lacks confidence. He bends, he compromises too quickly, he accepts poor treatment. Because he's afraid of losing her, he lets his fear of being alone guide his decisions, and little by little he hands over his power. Suddenly, he's not leading his own life, he's orbiting someone else's. He's chasing validation instead of living authentically. And that's the moment when games, manipulation, and disrespect find their way in. Because if you don't stand on your own values, someone else will decide it for you. Now let's flip that script. Imagine a man who knows exactly who he is. He's not arrogant, but he's grounded. He doesn't need constant reassurance because he already trusts his own worth. He doesn't crumble when someone withdraws affection because he knows love isn't about begging. It's about mutual respect. That kind of man doesn't chase approval. He attracts it. He doesn't compete for scraps of attention. He commands genuine respect. And in that phase, the entire relationship dynamic shifts. Women notice this immediately. Confidence is magnetic because it signals stability. It tells people this person is secure in who they are, so I can trust them. A confident man doesn't get rattled by rejection. He doesn't take games personally. He doesn't feel the need to prove himself every 5 minutes. Instead, he holds his ground calmly and firmly. And guess what? That calm authority creates attraction. without him lifting a finger. Here's the funny thing. When you lack confidence, you think you have to do more to keep someone interested. More texts, more gifts, more effort, more proving. But when you're confident, you realize you don't have to perform. You don't have to convince someone of your worth. It speaks for itself. That's why the power dynamic flips. The person who used to hold all the cards with emotional games suddenly finds themselves powerless because the confident man simply isn't playing. Confidence also changes the way men handle boundaries. Someone without confidence avoids conflict. They let things slide, even when it hurts them, because they're terrified of rocking the boat. But someone with confidence, they draw the line, not with anger, not with cruelty, but with certainty. I won't tolerate disrespect. I don't play games. I value honesty. These boundaries don't scare people away. They filter out the wrong people, and the right people, the ones who want something real, are drawn in even closer. Another thing confidence does is remove desperation. You've probably heard the phrase, desperation kills attraction, and it's true. People can smell it. When someone is desperate, every word, every action carries a kind of clingy energy. Please don't leave. Please like me. Please choose me. It pushes people away. But when you're confident, you don't project that energy. You're not worried about whether one person accepts you or not, because you know you'll be fine either way. Ironically, that detachment makes you more attractive. People chase what feels scarce, and nothing is scarcer than someone who doesn't need validation to feel whole. Confidence also means being able to walk away, and this might be the single most powerful shift of all. A man who can walk away from manipulation, disrespect, or inconsistency is a man who can't be controlled. When you have that kind of strength, people have no choice but to respect you. They may test you, they may push, but they know you won't bend past your breaking point. That alone flips the power dynamic permanently, because you're no longer operating from fear, you're operating from strength. And here's the most important part. Confidence isn't about domination. It's not about trying to overpower someone else. It's about balance. It's about two people coming together as equals, both strong, both secure. But the reality is, until men learn to cultivate this kind of grounded confidence, they'll always risk slipping into the weaker role in relationships, not because women are cruel, but because insecurity invites imbalance. When you're solid in yourself, that imbalance disappears. What's beautiful about real confidence is that it frees both people. The man doesn't feel controlled, and the woman doesn't feel pressured to play games. She can relax because she knows he isn't fragile. He can relax because he knows his value isn't at risk. That's when the healthiest, strongest relationships are born out of mutual respect, not manipulation. So yes, confidence flips the power dynamic. It takes men out of the role of the desperate chaser and puts them back in the role of the chooser. It turns every relationship from a game of survival into a genuine connection. And once men understand this, once they stop begging for validation and start embodying their true worth, they stop being controlled by fear. They start leading with strength. And when that happens, everything changes. Confidence isn't just attractive, it's freedom. And once you have it, you never give your power away again.